So in this video we're going to talk about triangles, and specifically we're going to talk about triangle congruence theorems, or as we called them in class, the shortcuts. So let's take a look at these two congruent triangles. We have triangle ABC is congruent to triangle XYZ. And this is the correspondence. So remember, this is our map. This is how, if we're thinking about transformations, this is how all of the points are getting mapped from one place to another. So point A is getting mapped to point X, point B is getting mapped to point Y, and point C is getting mapped to point Z. And what this shows us which parts are congruent. So we have, for example, the three congruent angles. We know angle A is going to be congruent to angle X, angle B is going to be congruent to angle Y, and angle C is going to be congruent to angle Z. And remember, we can always name these angles as three letters. We could say BAC is congruent to YXZ. What other parts to the triangles do we have? We have the sides. So we have segment AB is congruent to segment XY. And if you look up here in the correspondence, you can see AB and XY, and they line up. And also, so segment BC would be congruent to segment YZ, and segment AC would be congruent to segment XZ. So we discovered in class that we don't need all 6 components of a triangle to prove triangles congruent. We just need 3. So we need to look at all the combinations of sides and angles and see which ones work. So the first one is side, side, side. And we did 2 examples of this. One we did with the construction problem where we constructed 3 line segments, and also when we looked at the straws. If you noticed, when you have 3 pairs of congruent sides, like we have here in the diagram, so if you look at these drawings, these little hash marks mean, so AB is congruent to XY, AC is congruent to XZ, and BC is congruent to YZ. So there's no other way for us to piece these 3 side lengths together and get a different sized triangle or a different shaped triangle. So you're always going to get a congruent triangle when you have 3 pairs of congruent sides. The next one was angle, side, angle. So the best way to try and identify these things is by looking at how many pairs of angles we have that are congruent. Here we have 2 pairs of angles and 1 pair of sides. So we have angle A and angle X are congruent, as we can see with the single hash mark on the angle. And then the double hash marked B is congruent to the double hash marked Y. And then we have the 1 side length in between. Why is it an angle, side, angle? It's because the side is included in between the 2 angles. So think of it as a sandwich. So the side is actually included here. That is why it's angle, side, angle. So if we think about going around the triangle, if we start at, and we want to go around consecutively. So if we start at, say, A, we're at angle, side, angle. Or if we start at B, we go angle, side, angle. I know that's been causing some confusion, but just think about going consecutively. You don't want to start at A and go around this way because you're kind of missing all these parts here. So that would be, there's nothing here. So we want to actually go in consecutive order. So we have angle, side, angle. So what's the next combination? We have angle, angle, side, or it's equivalent to side, angle, angle. So again, we have 2 pairs of congruent angles and 1 pair of congruent sides. But the difference between angle, side, angle and angle, angle, side is the side is not included. It's not sandwiched between the 2 angles. So if we were going around, we start at B, you have angle, angle, side. Or if we were starting over here, you would have side, angle, angle. Okay? The next one, we have 2 pairs of congruent sides. So if you see the single hash mark and the single hash mark, that's AB is congruent to XZ, and then AC is congruent to XZ. And then the 1 angle is sandwiched between the 2 sides. that is known as the included angle. So if you have an included angle and two sides, there's no other way for us to construct a different shaped triangle. That's what we studied when we discovered this with our straws and our pipe cleaners exercise. Side angle side works for congruence. Let's look at the ones that don't work. So we have side angle. So again, we have two pairs of congruent sides and one angle, but the difference is, notice that the angle is not included. If it were included, it would be this angle B, but it's kind of floating out here on its own, okay? So it's not an included angle. If you think about the straws and the pipe cleaners that we used, it wouldn't be attached. They would be just kind of floating out in space here, okay? This one doesn't work, and let's see why. See, for example, we can just fold this line segment AB in, and we saw this when we used our GeoGebra software. You can have another triangle with the same side length as AB. It's congruent, but it's a different triangle, right? We have the same angle and the two same sides, but they're two different triangles. So you can actually, you have to be very careful. There's a case where you could have congruent triangles, but there's a case where you could not. So if you see side-side angle, or as we don't curse in geometry, ASS, remember, they do not work. So there's a case where you could have two possible triangles. The last one is angle, angle, angle. So if you have three congruent angles, and this we learned about in our transformations unit, you could have two congruent triangles, but there are many, many cases where you could not. And this is just simply a dilation. So you have three congruent angles, but obviously the triangle is much bigger. It's not the same size and shape, so it's not congruent. So remember, the ones that work are side angle side, side side side, angle side angle, and side angle angle. Or you could also say it's angle angle side. And then remember, angle 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 and angle side side or side side angle do not work. So make sure you have this in your notes and you have that study sheet to help you with that. And please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.